I'm Tarot Oracle, and this is part one of Tarot and Astrology. Now, the first card we have is obviously going to be the Magician from left to right, Dark Mansion, Anna Kay, and Wonderland Tarot. So, the Magician historically is known as the master of all of the elements. All four elements, fire, earth, water, and air, combined with his tools and his mastery of also connecting the spiritual with the physical as well. In addition to this mastery, the magician has the planet of Mercury as his astrology planet. So what this means is Mercury, traditionally represented by Hermes, is the messenger and the emissary of the gods. Therefore, the magician is noted to be all about not only the mind and the intellect, but also about communication. The emissary ran around with messages for each of the gods. It's about communication, which comes in all forms nowadays, from spoken communication to social media to texting your friends, etc. So it's interesting that we can include that aspect of the magician within the readings. So let's take a example reading here. So if you do have a message possibly about something bad coming, maybe a bit of a message about something bad coming, maybe a bit of a message about some guidance, a message that provides the guidance that you need, a message that provides the way that you need as well. In a romantic reading, the communication could be broken down. You could have an upside down magician, which communication broke down in the relationship, causing fighting, causing strife, and sort of interrupting that relationship, interrupting the lovers, and making it not as good as it could be if the communication was there. Communication also could be subversive. You could have somebody with communicating to you on a level that they know is sort of secretive or sneaky or something like that to try to get something past you as well. You could also have communication of good news. Communication of good news that has to do with possibly even the relationship. So it's interesting that we can include not only the mastery of the magician, not only the expertise that the magician provides, but we can also sort of correlate communication within that as well. So what happens if you do have fighting and you do have a breakdown in the communication? Obviously, later you could clear that up, and then you could have persevere across that strife, persevere across that problematic situation, and you could have at the end a very nice relationship, and you could have something that ends up being nice. So again, it's interesting to have that communication. We could have this in a work reading as well, possibly communication to superiors, or possibly communication to a boss, or networking. So within a work reading, within a work environment, you could have that communication that you need, the networking that you need to provide you a new job, or provide you an upgraded job, a raise, or something like that. It could be signaling, hey, talk to your supervisor, try to get that raise, go ahead and go for it. You could have communication on the pathway towards a new job as well. So we have a pathway option here. So we have 2, 3, 4 different jobs that this person could choose from. We have a work reading. We could have a situation to where we need to get the communication will lead us in a particular pathway, and it will lead us to a definite guided way, or a definite path to success within the realm of what we're looking for. So again, the communication could be important with a work reading, a relationship reading, or just about anything, obviously, where people interact or people talk or something like that. Could also be to get away from the situation to where you're sort of holed up by yourself, you're not really talking to other people, and you're trying to avoid it. It could be open. That line of communication could be beneficial for you as well. Now, the next card is the High Priestess, which corresponds with, obviously, the moon. So the moon represents the feminine. The moon represents the deep intuition. Some say that the sun represents where you're sort of headed, and the moon represents where you've been. Again, this is a very feminine planet. This is a very intuitive feelings type planet, mood and things like that. So you can sense that already within the cards. So there's not a lot of difference between the traditional high priestess meaning and what's introduced with the moon as well. So we'll just sort of tell you that it represented by the moon. And again, you can see it on many cards will have the moon as a very big part of the card. So this pretty much corresponds with the meanings of the card. So we're just going to leave it at that and tell you that the High Priestess is associated with the moon. The next card is the Empress, from a traditional tarot perspective known as the mother, the caretaker, and things like this. But the planet associated with this card is Venus. Now, Venus is a very attractive, a very alluring type of thing. Represents beauty and what is awesome. It represents that fine wine that you sit down to drink. It represents the emotional security that you have. It represents the beauty and the wondrous nature of being attractive, of being able to be loving and things like this. So the Empress, not only with the motherly aspect, which you see in almost every card, with the mother being present with the child or being pregnant or things like this, also look at this as a very loving and attractive card, sort of a seducing card as well. So what does that sort of mean in a reading? Well, you could have a situation to where that the seduction, the beauty and everything has led to a loving relationship and maybe something that is extremely happy. Sort of a happy ending. Everything is going to be fine in a relationship reading. Not only would you sort of look at this as a motherly aspect or possibly pregnancy or things like that, a lot of things the Empress represents, but you definitely want to also look at the art of attraction, the art of just pure love, the art of leading into love as well. So if you're looking at the Empress into the Lovers, you could be looking at sort of a luring or a beautiful relationship into a long-term relationship that ends in a very successful relationship as well. Or you could be looking at something maybe a little more subversive, something that is attractiveness or sort of seduction that's luring into possibly stealth or with bad meanings to it as well. So if we have the Empress upside down, we could be possibly looking at using that seduction for, again, bad purposes, to try to get away from something. Maybe there's a situation that's bad and we're just trying to get away from it, and we're using that ability to get away from it and, again, to try to lead us to a better place as well. So obviously we do have the maternity thing. So if we do have children, pregnancy and cards next to it, we'll go back to the original meaning or the original sort of feel of the Empress. But being that it is ruled by Venus, we could have different pathways or different avenues available to us. So we have 2 or 3 different opportunities for a relationship when we're trying to figure out which one is going to be best for us and which one is going to be the most productive. A lot of people will try to get a reading to find out, hey, I have a couple of different suitors, I'm not sure sort of which direction to go, and I'd like a leadway into the proper man that I would need to, that would be the best person to be with as well. So again, you could be looking at the seduction aspect gone bad, causing fights and causing strife and things like this. So definitely sort of look at the loving, the beauty, and the seduction of Venus itself when thinking about the Empress. So the first 4 cards, the Fool through the Empress, we're dealing with planets. Now we're going to take quite a break from that and go directly into astrology signs. So the Emperor is going to be our first astrology sign, and that is going to be Aries, a very aggressive, a very go-get-it type of sign. It does not delay, it does not wait, it wants to get it now, which is part of the problem of Aries. It wants it now, right now, and no wait. So it's a bit impatient, it's also a bit impulsive. Now this is a cardinal sign associated with fire, associated also with the color red. It's a very direct, no nonsense. Aries does not wait. It just gets things done. And you see in most representations of the emperor that the emperor is sort of sitting down. And most of the time that throw this card on the table, you're immediately thinking of a fatherly figure or something like that. But we sort of have to look at the other side of that, which is the Aries sign. Now again, the Aries can be a bit impulsive. Did he sit down for this picture and then within 10 seconds immediately get up and just sort of rush straight towards his next objective, straight towards his next thing that he was interested in? Again, Aries does skip from place to place. Aries does not like to be bossed. Aries is the boss. So in addition to the fatherly figure, in addition to the leader type aspect of this, you can look at this as a very aggressive, a very assertive sign that is going to get it and get it done quickly. So what does this mean in a reading? So you could have the Aries element of the emperor pretty much getting up off the throne, heading directly towards something, and then finding or making the pathway himself. Aries is not the time to sit and choose between those paths. He already knows the path, he already chose it, and he's headed that direction. This is not a type of thing that he's going to run into. So Aries is going to sort of stop this delayed reaction, stop this confusion about which path to take, and Aries is going to just blow through it and definitely choose left, for example, and he's going to get up and keep going. So this is important in this reading because the reading is not really stalled by this card. The reading, Aries is going to hit this card running, as you can see, and blow through it and find the pathway. So instead of reading this as you're kind of stalled, maybe you don't know which way to go, Aries is going to blow through that because here Aries comes into that path. We could also have a reversed Emperor and a reversed Aries, bringing out some of the negative aspects of that sign, possibly. Maybe a bit impulsive, maybe a bit too aggressive, maybe pushing a bit over the edge and leading into fights. So you have this loving relationship and everything is going well, and then all of a sudden you have the sort of Aries turned upside down, the Emperor turned upside down, which in a traditional meaning could be the leadership not really there, or it could be, think about it, possibly the aggressive or the assertive side of Aries coming out, a little bit of impatience with the relationship, and it's leading towards fight. In a love reading as well, we could have Aries turned upside down, a bit of the impatience inside of the love, dealing with a bit of separation, a bit of anxiety, a bit of preparing for the worst type of feeling, and that leads to sort of an isolation from the relationship. Even if it's a little bit of an emotional isolation, we still have an isolation from the relationship due to sort of the negative aspect of Aries. But we could have the positive pieces as well. We could have a situation to where it doesn't look good. We don't really have a lot of choices. Everything is kind of dim and grim. And then here comes the positive side of Aries, sort of the take charge, take leadership, get things done, get things moved out of the way, that cardinal, that go for it, right? The fire coming out of the Aries and making a success. So let's say we're starting our own business. We're not sure how the business is going to go. It looks like you're going to take charge. It looks like it'd be a rough start. You're going to definitely take charge of that, take the leadership role, as well as that here comes the fire aspect. Here comes the work. Here comes the pull and the work needed to make this a success. So Aries is a beautiful thing to have within a work reading to where you're just going to go for it and you're going to get it done, and that is the answer to the question. And the next card we can talk about is the Hierophant, or the Hierophant. Everyone's going to pronounce it differently. I've seen it pronounced both ways. I'm going to do Hierophant. So the Hierophant, in addition to the traditional tarot meanings, we have a fixed earth sign associated with this guy, and this card is represented by the sign of Taurus. Now again, a fixed earth, it's reliable, it's stable. If you need someone to come home to, it's going to be stable. It's going to be there. It's going to be reliable. If you need a job done, then Taurus is going to get that job done. It's very stable sign for anything. So in a tarot reading, this is going to be a fantastic thing to introduce if you want to use this sign in your reading. So let's say you have a relationship reading, and that introduces possibly lovers, you're dating, and things like that. Now you're going to have this here. Now you can use the traditional tarot meaning, or we can sort of go again with the astrology sign of Taurus. Again, we have that stability, that fixed earth feel within this reading now. So not only do we have sort of a dating, the couples in love and things like that, now we could look at a very stable relationship leading to a long-term strength or a long-term fixed relationship. So that's going to be a great card to have in any love reading, especially if you have something at the end with children or something like that. You could be looking at a strong relationship that is that's going to be fixed, that's going to be very earthy, and it's going to go into maybe children and having a long-term marriage. So fantastic card for a love reading. So here we have this calm, this fixed Taurus feel also represented into work. So we have this ongoing job, everything is at work, and it's a new job, I'm not sure how it's going to go type reading. Now you introduce this, you introduce that Taurus feel. Again, it's going to be very stable. It's going to be a very fixed thing. And then we move into this king reading, sort of this relaxed at home, this security type thing, a very relaxed feel after work, sort of chilling out. This is a very good reading for work as well. As with all things, Taurus also has a negative side, a bit of a stubbornness, a bit of just an anxiety, not being able to negotiate, not being able to move. So you have this loving relationship. Now you have a bit of stubbornness. Now you have a bit of issues going on with that, and it could lead to fights, or it could lead to sort of a domineering relationship where one side is greatly off balance with the other. So if Taurus is reversed, you may be looking at that stubbornness, that sort of possession as well. So Taurus negative side also leads to a lot of possessiveness, to where they're trying to just hang on to what they have, a little bit of greed within all of that. So you could be looking at a bit of a greed on the downside of a reversed Taurus card. So a very interesting way to sort of jazz up your existing readings, or jazz up the existing cards with all of this new stuff. So cool. Anyway, that is part 1 of Astrology and Tarot. Now, I hope you're having a good time. If you are, please hit like and subscribe. And we're going to see you in the next video, where we'll cover the next 4 or 5 cards and see all sorts of cool and interesting things that you can do with the tarot while using astrology within it. Thank you for watching.